All right, let's talk about a game. But this isn't your average board game. We're talking about a high-stakes global showdown. On one side, you've got some of the world's biggest companies, and on the other, entire governments. The prize is absolutely massive, hundreds of billions of dollars in tax revenue. You know, the kind of money that could build the next hospital in your city. So yeah, this is way more than just accounting. It's a global tug of war for power and resources.
So you've probably seen this, right? The headlines pop up all the time. A huge, super profitable company makes billions, but then their tax bill comes out and it's, well, tiny, shockingly small. And you think, how is that even possible? It feels like it shouldn't be allowed, but the crazy part is a lot of the time it's totally legal. So how on earth do they pull it off? That's the central mystery we're unpacking today.
To really get this, we're going to break the whole game down. First up, we'll look at the main objective, something called profit shifting. Then, we're going to crack open the corporate offensive playbook and see the clever strategies they're using. After that, we'll flip the script and see how governments try to play defense. And finally, we'll check the scoreboard, because the outcome of this game, well, it impacts every single one of us. Okay, so let's get right into the fundamental goal of the game. It all boils down to one core concept, profit shifting. And honestly, the name kind of says it all. It is literally about moving profits from the place where they're earned to someplace else, someplace where they'll be taxed a whole lot less. Here's why they do it in a nutshell. Imagine your company makes $100 million in a country with, say, a 30% tax rate. That's $30 million in taxes. Pretty straightforward. But what if you could find a way to legally say that you actually made that exact same profit in a country with only a 5% tax rate? All of a sudden, your tax bill plummets to just $5 million. That's a $25 million difference. Now scale that up to billions in profit, and the motivation to play this game becomes almost impossible to resist.
So how do you just move a profit from one country to another? I mean, you can't just wire the money and call it a day. You need a really sophisticated playbook. And corporations have one, filled with specialized financial tools and strategies that are designed to navigate, and sometimes, let's be honest, exploit, the gaps in international tax law.
Okay, one of the most important tools in the playbook is the shell company. The Caribbean Financial Action Task Force has a great definition for it. It's a legal entity that exists, but only on paper. Think of it like a corporate ghost. It has a name, it has a registration number, but there's no real office, no staff, no actual business going on. Its entire purpose is to hold assets or move money around.
And you might be picturing some big, fancy skyscraper, right? But the reality of a shell company is usually just a P.O. box or a single file in a lawyer's cabinet. It's this total lack of physical substance, this on-paper-only existence that makes them such an incredibly powerful tool in this global tax game.
So why are these corporate ghosts so popular? Well, they do a few things incredibly well. First, they hide who actually owns the money. Second, they can create this tangled web of ownership across dozens of countries, making the money trail almost impossible for anyone to follow. And most importantly, they shield the real owner from taxes and any kind of scrutiny, all while looking like a legit business on the surface.
Now for the next tool, this one might actually surprise you because it's something governments created themselves. It's called a double taxation agreement, or a DTA. And the original idea is actually pretty noble. Basically, if you earn money in one country and then bring it home to another, you shouldn't have to pay the full tax bill in both places. So these treaties are just supposed to sort out which country gets to tax what. But here's the twist. Developing countries often sign these deals hoping they'll attract foreign investment. But research from groups like the Tax Justice Network Africa shows that promise, it often falls completely flat. I mean, this quote really says it all. The evidence just isn't there. Instead, these agreements get exploited, creating these huge loopholes that can cost developing countries a fortune. So how does a perfectly good treaty get turned into a loophole? Well, there's this clever strategy called treaty shopping. Let me walk you through this real-world example from Uganda. A company wants to invest, but instead of just investing directly, they do something tricky. They set up a shell company in the Netherlands first. Why the Netherlands? Because the Netherlands happens to have a really favorable tax treaty with Uganda. So the Dutch shell company makes the investment, and when the profits flow out of Uganda, they're taxed at a way lower rate than they would have been otherwise. The company is literally shopping around for the best treaty deal they can find.
And the cost of this one move? A staggering $24 million. That's how much tax revenue Uganda could lose every single year just from this one treaty. That's money that could be going to hospitals, schools, roads, just gone. This is where the game starts to have very real victims.
So, that's the offense. But you know what?
This isn't a totally one-sided game. Governments are not powerless here, and they've got their own defensive strategies. They've actually developed some pretty complex rules designed specifically to counter the corporate playbook.
So the main defensive play is something called Controlled Foreign Corporation Rules, or CFC rules. You can think of it like a government's veto power. If one of its companies sets up a subsidiary in a tax haven just to park profits, CFC rules let the home country say, nice try. We see that money and we're going to tax it just like it was earned right here. It's a direct counterattack designed to make the whole profit-shifting thing pointless.
But do these rules actually work? Well, a huge study from Oxford University looked at thousands of corporate buyouts, and what they found was fascinating. You can see it on this chart right here. Companies from countries with strong CFC rules are way less likely to go out and buy up companies in tax havens. And why is that? It's because the CFC rules take away the whole financial reason for doing it in the first place.
And this right here is the key takeaway from that research. CFC rules actually change how corporations behave. They level the playing field. See, a company from a country without these rules can afford to pay more for a company in a tax haven because they know they'll make the money back in tax savings. But a company that's stuck with CFC rules can't do that. It makes them less competitive for those specific deals. The defense actually works.
Okay, so we've seen the offense, we've seen the defense. But what's the final score? Who's winning, who's losing, and really, why should any of us care? Because this isn't just some theoretical game for accountants and lawyers. The outcome of this thing has a massive impact on societies all over the globe.
Look, when corporations manage to shift profits, governments lose money. It's that simple. And that means less money for the public services we all depend on. This hits developing countries the hardest, basically robbing them of the cash they need to grow. It also creates a totally unfair system where local businesses that pay their taxes can't compete with the big guys playing the global game. And over time, all of this just erodes trust. It weakens the social contract between people and their governments.
And this is what's really at stake. Tax revenue isn't just some number on a spreadsheet. It's the most powerful tool a country has to build its own future, to educate its people, to build infrastructure, and to grow without having to rely on foreign aid. Every single dollar of tax that gets shifted away is a dollar of lost potential.
And that brings us to the big final question that just kind of hangs over all of this. This game is always changing. Money, data, it all moves at the speed of light now, and corporations can change their strategies in an instant. But laws are slow. They take forever to change. In a world that's this connected, can individual countries, each with their own rulebook, ever really keep up with a game that's global, digital, and faster than ever before? That is the challenge for the next chapter of this story.